All right, so you ready to dive into this whole LLM agents thing?
Always ready for a good deep dive.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's buzzing about it. Could be the next big thing in software.
Absolutely. Some think it's even bigger than that. The whole future of software.
No kidding. So we better get up to speed. And lucky for us, we've got this awesome document from Anthropic.
Building effective agents?
Right. Like they just laid it all out for us. Not just what these agents are, but like how to actually build the darn things.
And they've got some pretty strong opinions about the best way to go about it.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, for one, they're big on keeping things simple. Like, don't overcomplicate it, you
I
know.
gotcha. Start simple. Makes sense.
And they really emphasize knowing when not to build an agent at all.
Oh, interesting. When would that be the case?
We'll get into that. But first things first, let's clarify what we're even talking about. What are these agents, really?
Right. Good point. I mean, I feel like the term gets thrown around a lot. How does Anthropic define them?
Yeah. They make a distinction between workflows and agents. Workflows are like, following a recipe. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
Got it. Predefined steps. Like a script.
Exactly. But agents, they're powered by LLMs that can make decisions as they go. Dynamic,
So if a workflow is like following a set of instructions, an agent's more like, I don't know, a jazz musician.
Kind of. More
Yep.
improvisation, reacting to the situation.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But wait, doesn't that mean agents have to be super complicated?
Not necessarily. Anthropic actually emphasizes the power of simple composable patterns.
Interesting. So how do we decide when to use an agent versus just sticking with the straightforward workflow?
Good question. It's about trade-offs. Agents are more flexible. They can make decisions at scale.
Okay, sounds powerful.
But they can also be slower, more expensive, and potentially even a bit flaky if you're not careful.
Right. So when's a good time to just stick with the workflow?
When you've got a well-defined task, predictable steps, like imagine you're automating data entry, that's perfect for a workflow.
Makes sense. So agents are for when things get a bit more unpredictable.
Exactly. When you need that decision-making power, at that adaptability. But honestly, for a lot of applications, Anthropic says you can get by just fine with optimizing your single LLM calls.
Oh, really? No need to build a whole agent system?
Nope. Often that's the most efficient, cost-effective approach.
Huh. Interesting. Okay, so I've been hearing a lot about all these frameworks for building agents, LangChain, Amazon Bedrock's framework, all that.
Right.
They seem like a good way to get started. What's Anthropic's take on using frameworks?
They're useful, don't get me wrong, easy to get started with, but
But
they can add a lot of abstraction, which can make it harder to debug, harder to understand what's going on under the hood.
so it's like you're using these pre-built components, but you don't really know how they work.
Exactly. So if something goes wrong,
You're kind of stuck.
exactly. Anthropic's advice: start by using LLM APIs directly. Get your hands dirty with the code.
So learn the fundamentals before you start using shortcuts.
Precisely. Then, if you decide to use a framework later on, you'll have a much deeper understanding of what's going on.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's say we're ready to start building. Where do we even begin with these agents?
Anthropic breaks down agent systems into these building blocks. Start with the foundation, the augmented LLM.
Okay, augmented LLM. What makes it augmented?
You're basically giving your LLM some extra superpowers: retrieval, tools, memory, like being able to access external information, databases, websites, whatever it needs.
Okay. So it's not just working with the information that's already been trained on.
Right. It can go out and find new information.
Gotcha. And pools.
The ability to interact with other systems, APIs, databases, even web browsers.
So it's like giving it hands to actually do things in the digital world.
Exactly. And then memory, that's all about remembering past interactions, so it can learn and adapt.
Okay, so an augmented LLM is like, I don't know, a cyborg LLM.
Yes.
Superpowered.
Yeah, I like that. And the cool thing is, modern LLMs are getting better at using these augmentations on their own.
Wait, really? Like they can decide when to search for information, when to use a tool?
Yep. They're becoming more autonomous.
Whoa, that's pretty wild. Okay, so once we've got our augmented LLM set up, then what?
Then we start thinking about workflows. And Anthropic highlights 5 key workflows to get you started.
5 workflows. All right, lay them on me.
The simplest one is prompt chaining. Basically, you break a task into a sequence of LLM calls.
So instead of trying to do everything in one go, you break it down into smaller steps.
Exactly. And the output of one step becomes the input for the next, like a chain reaction.
Gotcha. So when would you use prompt chaining?
Lots of situations. Imagine you're translating marketing copy. You could use prompt chaining to first generate the English copy, then have another LLM translate it into Spanish.
Ah, I see. So the output of the first LLM call, the English copy, becomes the input for the second LLM call, the translation.
Yeah.
Clever.
Right. And you can use this pattern for all sorts of things, writing outlines, generating code, you name it.
Okay, cool. What's the next workflow?
Routing. Imagine you're building a customer service agent.
Okay, I'm imagining.
You might use routing to direct general questions to a basic chatbot, but refund requests go to a specialized agent that can access account info.
So it's like different types of queries get routed to the most appropriate department.
Exactly. And you can even get fancy with it. Route easy questions to smaller, faster models and save the big guns for the tough stuff.
Huh, smart. Okay, what else we got?
Parallelization. This is all about speed and diversity.
Ooh, sounds intriguing.
Imagine you need to moderate content super quickly. You could have one LLM processing the query, another screening for bad language, all happening simultaneously.
Oh, wow. So instead of one LLM doing everything, you split the workload.
Yep. Or imagine you're reviewing code for vulnerabilities, multiple LLMs analyzing it, each looking for different types of issues.
Okay, so parallelization is about either speeding things up or getting diverse perspectives from multiple LLMs. Got it. What's next?
Orchestrator workers. This one's for complex tasks where you don't know exactly what needs to be done ahead of time.
Sounds intense.
It's like having a project manager, LLM, that breaks down a big task into smaller subtasks.
Well,
And then it delegates those subtasks to other specialized LLMs. Think of it like coding a complex product. The orchestrator LLM could be like, all right, you write the new code, you update the existing code, and you test it all.
whoa. So it's like a whole team of specialized LLMs working together.
Exactly. Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, super cool, but also a bit mind-boggling. Okay, we've got 4 workflows down. What's the last one?
Evaluator optimizer. Think of it like having an editor for your LLM. One LLM generates something, another one critiques it, suggests improvements.
So it's like a back and forth, constantly refining of the output.
Exactly. Like two expert translators working together trying to get the perfect translation.
Makes sense. Okay, so we've got these 5 workflows: prompt chaining, routing, parallelization, orchestrator workers, and evaluator optimizer. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But how do we go from workflows to actual agents?
That's where things get even more interesting. Agents go beyond workflows by incorporating reasoning, planning, tool usage. They operate more autonomously.
So it's like instead of just following instructions, they can actually figure out how to achieve a goal.
Right. And Anthropic has been working on some fascinating agents, like one that can solve real GitHub issues. Imagine an AI programmer that can fix bugs just from a description of the problem.
That's insane. What else are they working on?
They've even got a computer use agent where their LLM, Claude, can actually use a computer like a human.
Hold on. What, you mean like you can browse the web, open file?
All that. It's like giving Claude its own virtual computer to play around with.
Whoa, that's next level stuff. But wait, isn't there some risk involved in giving these agents so much autonomy?
Of course, there are trade-offs. More power, more scalability, but also more potential for things to go wrong.
So it's all about responsible design and implementation, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of design, Anthropic has 3 core principles for building effective agents.
Okay, let's hear them.
Simplicity. Don't overcomplicate things. Start simple and only add complexity when you absolutely have to.
Got it. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Exactly. Then there's transparency. You need to be able to understand how your agent is making decisions.
So it's like being able to see inside its head, see its thought process.
Right. And this ties back to the frameworks discussion. Less abstraction means more transparency, easier debugging.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
What's the third principle?
A well-crafted agent-computer interface, or ACI. You know how frustrating it is to use software with a bad interface?
Yeah, tell me about it.
Well, your LLM feels the same way about poorly designed tools. Clear parameters, good explanations, even examples of how to use things.
So it's all about making the tools user-friendly, even if the user is an AI.
Exactly. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got the basics of agents, the different workflows, those 3 core principles. But how are companies actually using these agents in the real world?
Yeah, let's get down to brass tacks. Where are we seeing this stuff in action?
Anthropic highlights 2 main areas: customer support and coding.
Customer support, that makes sense. I mean, it's a lot of back and forth, accessing information, taking actions.
Exactly, and you've got clear success criteria. Did you resolve the customer's issue or not?
Right, so you can easily measure how effective the agent is.
Precisely. And some companies are even using usage-based pricing for their customer support agents.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
You only pay if the agent actually solves the problem.
pretty cool, right? Shows how confident they are in their engine's abilities.
It's like they're putting their money where their mouth is. All right, what about coding?
Coding is great because code is verifiable. You can run tests, make sure it works.
Right, and it's all very structured, logical.
Exactly. So LLMs can easily understand and manipulate it. You could use prompt chaining to have an agent write a function, test it, integrate it into a larger program.
Cool. And you can even use that orchestrator workflow to have different agents specializing in different aspects of coding, like front end, back end.
Exactly. And get this. Anthropic says their coding agent can now solve real GitHub issues based on just the pull request description.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah.
It can read a description of a bug and then write the code to fix it.
Yep. Pretty amazing, right?
That's mind-blowing. But they still emphasize the importance of human review, right? Especially for making sure the solution's aligned with the bigger picture.
Absolutely. AI can be a powerful tool, but it's not a magic bullet. Human judgment is still essential.
Okay, so big picture. What are your main takeaways from all this agent stuff?
For me, it's about remembering that building effective agents isn't about creating the most complex system possible. It's about understanding your needs, starting simple, and iterating.
Right, don't overcomplicate things.
And then, of course, those three core principles: simplicity, transparency, and a good agent-computer interface. Keep those in mind, and you'll be on the right track.
Okay, that's a lot to digest. But before we move on, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Imagine a world where every company uses those customer support agents with usage-based pricing. Would you be more likely to reach out for help if you knew you wouldn't be charged unless they actually fixed your problem?
That's a great question. It really makes you think about how these agents could change the whole customer service landscape.
Right. It's a whole new way of thinking about how we interact with companies, with technology.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into LLM agents, but we're not done yet. When we come back, we'll be exploring Anthropic's insights on a crucial aspect of building these agents: prompt engineering for tools.
Can't wait. It's going to be fascinating to see how we can make these LLMs even more powerful and effective by giving them the right tools and the knowledge to use them. Thinking about that customer service thing, it reminds me of another mind-blowing concept Anthropic talks about:
Oh yeah, what's that?
the computer use agent.
Oh, right. Where their LLM, Claude, can actually, use a computer.
Like a human.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It really makes you rethink what AI is capable of.
I know, right? It's like we always think of AI as being good at specific tasks, but this is next level.
It really is. It suggests a future where AI can navigate digital environments just like we do, seamlessly.
How does it even work? Does Claude have its own little mouse and keyboard or something?
I wish. No, it's more abstract than that. They basically created a simulated computer environment, and Claude interacts with it using natural language commands.
So it's like giving Claude a virtual playground to experiment in.
Exactly. And within this virtual space, Claude can do all sorts of things: browse websites, search for information, compose emails, even write and execute code.
Wait, hold on. It can write and run code inside this virtual environment.
Yep. Pretty wild, huh?
That's insane. What are the implications of that? What could you actually do with that?
Oh, the possibilities are endless. Imagine you could ask Claude, find me the best recipe for chocolate chip cookies. And it doesn't just search the web. It compiles a shopping list, orders the ingredients for you.
Whoa, that'd be amazing. Or what about plan a trip to Italy for next summer? Books, flights, hotels, creates an itinerary.
Exactly. It highlights the power of combining these LLMs with tools and a well-designed interface.
It also makes you think about the future of work. If AI can do all this stuff, what does it mean for us humans?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Some people think AI will augment our capabilities, free us up to focus on more creative work.
Right.
Others are worried about job displacement,
It's a tough one. No easy answers. But for sure, the future of work is going to look very different thanks to AI.
Absolutely. And it's important to be having these conversations now so we can prepare for that future, make sure AI is used ethically and responsibly.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit. Talk about the practical side of building these systems. What advice does Anthropic have for developers?
Well, they really stress starting simple, testing thoroughly, iterating on your designs. And they caution against getting too caught up in the convenience of frameworks.
Right, they mentioned that earlier. Understand the underlying code, even if you're using a framework.
Exactly. It's like knowing how to change a tire, even if you usually rely on roadside assistance.
Right. If something goes wrong, you're going to wish you knew how to do it yourself.
Exactly. So for developers who are just starting out with LLM agents, what's a good first step?
Yeah, where should they begin?
Start with simple prompts. Optimize those prompts with thorough evaluation. Don't jump into complex agentic systems right away.
Got it. Start small, experiment, build up from there.
And don't be afraid to iterate. This whole LLM world is constantly changing. What works today might not work tomorrow. You got to be adaptable.
Okay, so big picture, key takeaways for our listeners who are thinking about building their own LLM agents.
Building effective agents isn't about creating the most complex system. It's about understanding your needs, choosing the right tools, and being willing to experiment and iterate. And of course, those three core principles we discussed: simplicity, transparency, and a well-crafted agent-computer interface.
Right, those are key. Okay, so before we move on, let's explore another fascinating area that Anthropic highlights.
No, you mean prompt engineering for tools?
You know it? This might sound a bit technical, but it's crucial for building effective agents. So, for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term, what exactly is prompt engineering for tools?
It's like teaching your LLM how to use a specific tool effectively.
So instead of like teaching it how to use a hammer or a screwdriver, we're teaching it how to interact with like APIs, databases, or even web browsers.
Exactly, you got it. Think of it like writing a clear and concise instruction manual for your LLM. You're explaining what each tool does, how to use it, and what kind of output to expect.
Okay, so we're essentially giving the LLM the knowledge it needs to wield these digital tools. But why is this so important? What happens if we skimp on the whole prompt engineering for tools thing?
Well, if your LLM doesn't understand how to use a tool properly, it's going to make mistakes, produce garbage output, and ultimately fail to complete the task.
Right? Makes sense. It's like trying to build a house with a hammer you don't know how to use. You'll probably end up with more splinters than progress.
Exactly. And Anthropic emphasizes that prompt engineering for tools deserves just as much attention as crafting your overall prompts for the LLM.
So how do we ensure our LLM can use these tools effectively? What are some tips for effective prompt engineering in this context?
One strategy Anthropic recommends is to really consider the LLM's perspective. Put yourself in its shoes and ask, is it obvious how to use this tool based on the description I've provided?
So clarity is key, just like when we're communicating with other humans.
Absolutely. The tool description should be clear, concise, and easy to understand. Avoid using jargon or technical terms that the LLM might not be familiar with. Think of it like explaining a concept to someone who's never encountered it before.
And what about the parameters for the tool? How do we make sure those are clear to the LLM?
Think of it like writing good documentation for a junior developer. You'd use descriptive parameter names, provide clear explanations of what each parameter does, and even include example usage if possible.
So just like with the tool description, we need to prioritize clarity and user-friendliness, even though our user is an LLM.
Precisely. And don't forget about edge cases, those unexpected inputs or situations that can trip things up. Make sure your tool descriptions can handle them gracefully.
Okay, so we've got clarity, descriptive parameters, and edge case handling. Anything else we should keep in mind when designing these tools for LLMs?
Anthropic highlights the importance of minimizing formatting overhead. LLMs can sometimes struggle with complex formatting requirements, so keeping things simple is often best.
Can you give me an example of what you mean by formatting overhead?
Sure. Imagine you're building a tool that lets the LLM edit files. You could specify the edits using a diff format, which shows added or removed lines. But this can be tricky for LLMs to process because they need to keep track of line numbers and formatting.
So a simpler approach might be to have the LLM just rewrite the entire file.
Exactly. It might seem less efficient, but it can actually be easier for the LLM to handle and lead to fewer errors. Remember, what's intuitive for us humans isn't always the best approach for LLMs.
That's a great reminder.
Yeah.
So it seems like testing and iteration are crucial, not just for building the agents themselves, but for designing the tools they use as well.
Absolutely. The world of LLMs is constantly evolving, and what works today might not work tomorrow. You need to be prepared to adapt and refine your designs as you learn more.
It sounds like flexibility and a willingness to experiment are essential in this field.
You hit the nail on the head. Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we discussed earlier, the potential impact of LLM agents on the future of work.
Yeah, it's a topic that's both exciting and a little bit intimidating, right?
It is. On the one hand, these agents have the potential to automate tasks, boost efficiency, and even create new opportunities we haven't even imagined yet. But on the other hand, there are valid concerns about job displacement and the ethical implications of increasingly powerful AI.
It's a complex issue that requires careful consideration. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI, to ensure its development and deployment align with human values.
I completely agree. It's not about fearing the technology, but about using it responsibly and thoughtfully to create a better future for everyone.
Absolutely. So as we enter this new era of LLM agents, what's the key takeaway for our listeners? What do we want them to remember from all of this?
Remember that we all have a role to play in shaping the future we want to see. Let's embrace the possibilities of this incredible technology while being mindful of the potential challenges. Let's work together to create a world that is more efficient, more equitable, and ultimately more fulfilling for everyone.
That's a fantastic message to end on. It's been a fascinating journey exploring the world of LLM agents. Hopefully our listeners are walking away with a deeper understanding of these powerful systems and a sense of excitement about what the future holds.
And remember, this is just the beginning. The world of LLMs is constantly evolving, so keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.